Okay, let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. Thank you for attending today. I'm really excited about this topic. The critical role of insights in achieving a sustainable future. I'm Dave Lundahl. I'm the CEO for Insights Now, in case you don't know me. I've been a founder for Insights Now, been working in the consumer packaged goods industry as a researcher and doing a lot of work in this area of sustainability these days. On March the 28th at Quirk Chicago, and Quirk Chicago is for those of you who may not know, is a conference that's held every year. It's for marketing researchers, for insights professionals. Anyways, at that session this year, we had a panel discussion that I led as the moderator on the topic of what are the greatest insight needs for a more sustainable future. And today we have back 3 of the 4 panelists, along with myself, and we're going to rebroadcast the videotaping from Quirk Chicago, minus the Q&A part and any preamble I had at the beginning, because I'm going to do that here. So we're going to have questions after for those of you that are joining us live. And if you look at the Q&A chat icon here, along with this Zoom meeting platform, you can just click on that and enter in your questions anytime, and we will field those at the end after our rebroadcast of the recording. So anyways, I'm here with some fantastic people. Missing is Kate Marston. And Kate, if you can move to the next slide, please. Katie Marston is the R&D Senior Manager, Sensory and Consumer Product Insights at PepsiCo. And she works on a lot of the brands that are food related at PepsiCo. And so she's not going to join us today. She had other things that, unfortunately, but we're still going to broadcast. You'll get to hear some of the comments that she made. But also with us, we have Cindy Newman, Mickey French, and Ashley Stark. And so, Ashley, I'm going to start with you. Go ahead, and if you could give a little bit about your role and your interest in this subject area with regard to insights for a sustainable future.
Yeah, I'm Ashley Stark. I'm the Consumer Insight Senior Manager for Gerber. So I oversee consumer, shopper, and any renovation sensory research. So this is a topic that Gerber is very passionate about. We have very lofty goals, and I think that will be in the recording, so I won't repeat it. To be sustainable, because it's very important for us that we build a better, more sustainable future for the next generation. I'm not going to repeat anything that's in the webinar. Hopefully that's enough information so you know a little bit about me.
Great, thanks, Ashley. Mickey, if you could do an intro, please.
Hello there, my name is Mickey French. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Food Integrity. CFI is a member-based organization focused solely on building trust in the food system. All the way across the food system, our members are everywhere from pre-farm through to CPG and retailers. And you know, our sole mission is to make sure that the conversation around food is fair and balanced, so that consumers can make decisions based on confidence and trust rather than misinformation and confusion. So that's what we do. So this topic is incredibly important to us. Sustainability is an area where consumers are confused, and I think this is a great discussion on how to make sure that we continue to provide them the information that they need to make those decisions. So thrilled to be with you all again.
Great, thanks, Mickey. Cindy.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Cindy Newman. I'm the Director of Research for the Insights Association. And for those of you who are not familiar with the association, we are actually the association that promotes and protects and informs and connects the entire marketing research industry. So as we think about this particular topic, not only will research play an incredibly important role in helping organizations understand how to create sustainable products and services that will actually stick, but we have an opportunity to work together as a group of marketing research experts to develop processes and standards around that best-in-class research. So thrilled to be here today for this topic. Thank you.
Super, great. All right, so with that, let me kind of set the sort of framework for our what we're going to be talking about, what you're going to see here in this video. So last summer, Insights Now, we conducted I call it a landmark piece of research, and it was with the support from some of our clients. And that this piece of research we called the Aspirational Compass Project. And it was designed to help us identify consumer tensions with regard to primary shoppers in the food industry. It was about 3,000 people that we surveyed in this study. So it was pretty significant. And what we found is that sustainability is the greatest tension right now, the greatest sort of area of tension for shoppers when it comes to the types of things that are driving their future sort of desires for food products and beverages. And if you look at last summer, even with inflation as it was, which was very high, a lot of concern like that, we were very surprised to see sustainability pop like it did. Like 47% of the shoppers basically said sustainability is really important to me. And however, a lot of people are not necessarily buying sustainability. So we see a lot of claims on products that are going into the market around sustainability, and that seems to been growing. However, there's a lot of barriers, and we identified in this piece of research 4 types of barriers for shoppers. And Mickey already has alluded to one of them, and that is a lot of confusion amongst shoppers of what is sustainability, what products really are sustainable, can I trust the companies and the claims that are making on pack and in media and messaging. The second is that there is a lot of concern about products that are claimed and positioned as more sustainable, but not delivering on more basic functionality, like taste, like convenience. And then last, there's a lot of concern about affordability. A lot of products, as you know, that are positioned as more sustainable are actually more expensive than products that are similar to it, but yet just aren't positioned as more sustainable for one reason or another. So this has caused a lot of this tension that consumers have. And so with that, we think this is really important because we know that for a lot of companies, they are trying to be more sustainable, trying to bring products to market, but being for profit, there's importance to maintain that bottom line while they are trying to bring these products to market and to create sort of consumer impact and behavioral impact and market impact. So that's sort of the framework with that. With that, I'm not going to say any more. We're going to move to the actually broadcasting this panel discussion. It's about 17-minute long video, and then we'll go to Q&A.
Now with that, we've actually been focusing on the food industry, but for those of you that are working in areas outside of food, realize that these same topics are really important. So what I'm going to do is first ask Katie and all of our panelists here. So in your organizations, each of you, what are some of the things that you're doing, and tell us a little bit about your organizations that you're a part of.
So PepsiCo as a corporate has pretty ambitious goals around the sustainability area, and primarily in 3 pillars. So first, positive agriculture. So think of regenerative ag at the farm, sustainably sourced ingredients. We also have a lot of work going on in positive value chain. So think about reducing greenhouse gas and emissions, water use, and the use of virgin plastic in our packaging. And I think more of those consumer-facing changes focus on positive choices that we want consumers will see and be able to purchase in the marketplace. So think of packaging. We're on a goal to make all of our packaging either recyclable, compostable, reusable, or eliminate the need for most of the packaging altogether with initiatives like SodaStream. We also on that are trying to incorporate more of more positive nutrition into our products. So not only just fruits and vegetables, more whole grains, legumes, and those types of things, and as well as minimizing some of those negatives as well. So minimizing salt, reducing salt, fat, sugar in our products. And so you can imagine that big ambition of making these choices. And like Dave said, there's a lot of things that will require investment in that initial cost. But I think there's hope for the future of that some of these changes will become more economical. We've had history in the past where we've made positive health choices like removing trans fats, and some of those oils, healthier oils we used previously were definitely more expensive and required more investment, but today those are pretty more mainstream, and supply and demand equals that out. So excited to see our industry and as well as other companies out there moving in that way, and hopefully some of those cost prohibitive barriers will come down as the investment picks up.
At Gerber, our mission is anything for babies, so it's very important to us that we are building a healthier and sustainable planet for the future generation. So we aim to have all of our packaging reusable or recyclable by 2025. We also aim to have only renewable energy in our manufacturing and distribution facilities. And then by 2035, our entire product line will be carbon neutral. So today our Plantastic line is carbon neutral. Our organic and natural jars will be carbon neutral later this year. And we already use regenerative farming. And 95% of our farms are in the US and through our network of Gerber growers. So we feel confident that we're on the right trajectory. But we're going to talk a lot about the challenges today. And unfortunately, the consumer doesn't know what we're doing. And it's really hard to communicate to them with the little space and time we have.
I lead the Center for Food Integrity. We're a not-for-profit organization that's based on building trust in the food system. So we're a member-based organization, and we represent everything from pre-farm, so think about ag tech, think about gene editing, think about all of the things that happen before you even get to a farm, all the way through to CPG companies, retailers, et cetera. So our role is really to our mission is to provide a fair and balanced conversation about food that's scientifically based and that's non-biased, right? So we don't lobby, we don't represent any one part of the food system or another, we represent everyone, and our goal is to really bring everybody to the table to discuss some of the issues that are eroding trust. Our whole focus is building trust in the food industry. So what are those barriers to trust? What's eroding trust? And a lot of that ends up coming back to sustainability and a lot of the topics that we'll be discussing today. So we're just focused sort of that entire food value chain and making sure that every step of the way, everyone's being responsible and transparent about what they're doing in food. So that's us.
And at the Insights Association, one of our missions is to promote and really bring groups together like this to champion some of the changes that are occurring within the manufacturing, CPG, and even the insights industry. And so I think this panel and the great work that they're doing is something that we can all not only learn from, but our organization oftentimes will host webinars and events where we provide a platform for some of these new initiatives, and the role that research is going to play in developing sustainable products and packaging and the entire landscape, if you will, is going to be enormous. And so hopefully this is just the beginning of the conversation. And that one of the things we talked about before we came on stage today was the importance of collaboration. And I think all of the leaders in the room, and certainly those on the stage, are super eager to collaborate. And that's one of the ways that the Insights Association can really help, by providing that platform, bringing groups together, and allowing us all to work together.
Great. So Ashley at Gerber, you mentioned some of the challenges a minute ago. Katie, can you talk about some of the challenges that you're facing at PepsiCo?
Yeah, I think some of the challenges that our team is presented with on our sensory and consumer experience team with an R&D is we're being asked pretty ambitious questions as well with our ambitious goals of we are working with big beloved brands that we want to make sure we're moving in a positive direction for our consumers and nudging them that direction, but also not alienating them at the same time. And how we communicate our message to them might be different depending on what brands we're working on. So how we would communicate some of these changes to a Sunchip user or a Quaker Oat user might be very different, and they might be more readily accepting of some of those changes that we're wanting to make. We're also have the same brands of like Cheetos, Doritos in our house. So we want to make sure that how we talk to them in a meaningful way might be different. So we need to come up with those types of strategies and make sure we're bringing the consumers along with us. I think also one of those big changes that we're making is a lot of these big brands, we don't like to touch the product design very often. They're beloved for a reason. We have fanatics that love our brands, and we want to make sure we're not alienating them when we're making those changes. So what other things do we need to do besides just look at our traditional metrics of how are we valuing those things, and we're valuing those things in the total proposition. So we're looking for partners, talk about collaboration out there. We're looking for partners out there to help us monitor all of that, how we can positively communicate that message, measure the whole holistic experience and see what they value, and make sure that we are monitoring that over time, longitudinally. What happens when we make those nudges, and what's the most strategic way to do it to make sure that we're always delivering those smiles and when they sip and bite of our products that we try every day.
Ashley, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I love what you were saying about the communication piece and being very thoughtful of, not touching the product. I think for us, because closer in, we're focused on the package experience. Those are some of the challenges we're facing today. So we want to move to a more sustainable package, but we want to make sure that the package is still meeting the consumer need. So is it keeping the product fresh and safe? Is it easy to take on the go, easy to open and close? Because that is a very important part of the consumer experience. And it's become a very difficult challenge for us to find these sustainable products that meet all of those needs. So we've definitely been working hard on testing the functionality and just making sure that we're thinking about that consumer experience and their journey in the process.
So Mickey, from the Center of Food Integrity, what are some of your challenges?
Yeah, I mean, since we're based on building trust in the food system, what we're finding is year over year, trust in organizations is being eroded, mainly because consumers are confused, especially when it comes to issues on sustainability. They're confused. They don't know who to trust, who to listen to. And so those are really the challenges to us, is to find ways to bring people together, to encourage organizations to be more transparent, so that consumer confusion doesn't erode trust overall in the entire food system. And consumers are looking to us, meaning business and organizations, to lead the way. They don't trust the government anymore. They don't trust the especially in food, when it comes to any of the regulations that are coming out. They trust their neighbors sometimes, but unless their neighbors are of a different political ilk than them. So really trust across the US, and especially in the food system, is really one of the biggest challenges that we're helping organizations to face and to overcome.
So Cindy, what about for the Insights Association? What are your challenges that you're faced, or maybe the association members are faced?
Yeah, so the challenges described here, I really consider to be opportunities for our organization and for all of us, actually, because the Insights Association is really that industry organization that takes the challenges and the opportunities and things that researchers are working on, and we collaborate and bring people together and really allow platforms like this to begin and to have the conversation. So our challenge will be to make sure that we do so in a meaningful way, of course, given some of the other initiatives that we have, but this is a real opportunity for all of us to work together to really have an enormous impact, not only on business, but on our economy and global world as a whole.
Good. So Katie, back to you. Getting to the idea of insights needs, in your role, what are some of the greatest insights needs that you believe that you need in order to overcome these challenges?
Well, we need help from all of you out there. So I think maybe I already plugged that too much. But we're looking for definitely to collaborate with folks to understand how that proposition is moving holistically of when we make some of those changes and how consumers value it. I think another challenge that we are faced with is a lot of these changes are all hitting at one time. We're working on the product design, we're working on the package, we're working on how we process it in the plant with less energy and less water. And so all of these changes are bundled up where we talked about how we don't like to make big changes to big brands very often. All of these are coming together at the same moment. So we'll need to make sure that we understand what are the impact of each of those changes and how to track those over time and look at the whole value proposition. So some of those are the big questions that we've been asking ourselves is how do we monitor that? How do we break that apart of all the different things that are all kind of rate of change moving at that sort of pace?
Ashley?
Yeah. I mean, I want to build on what you said earlier, that there's a lot of consumer confusion, and Mickey saying there's a lot of lack of trust of government, big companies. So I think our biggest need right now is how to communicate to the consumer. Because, I could do a claims test, I can, test some communication, but really understanding how do you break through? Because, our parent doesn't have time to do a lot of research about all the brands before they go to the store. 2/3 decide before they go to the store that they're buying baby food, but the rest of the decisions are made at shelf. And our real estate is very small. So how do you communicate to them? We were talking before this panel today, do certifications and logos mean anything to the consumer? Because that also, it's very small. So how do you communicate what you want to the consumer with that limited space? Because we know it's important to them, but there are a lot of barriers for them to actually purchase sustainably. And one of them is really just that lack of understanding and lack of the ability to identify what is a sustainable product on the shelf.
Yeah, I would build on that and say what we're looking at is what are the areas, the best way to combat a lack of trust is through transparency. And what are the areas of transparency that are most relevant for the food system as a whole and for a brand, to your point, as a single brand? So often brands across the board, whether it's food or otherwise, want to put all the different certifications they have on there and say, we're being transparent. But consumers are even more confused. So are we expecting them to go out and do the research and figure out what all those different logos mean? It does give them, we know from our research that it does give them some form of trust to see that it's been verified by third parties, but I think it's up to us across the board, no matter what industry we're in, to choose and make sure that we understand, which logos, which verification is important. So for us, any insights that help us to help our members be more transparent, from anywhere from National Pork Board, National Fisheries Institute, what's happening on the farm level, what's happening all the way through until it gets to your shelf, and in the manufacturing process, how can we help the food industry be more transparent in a way that's easy to understand and not adding to the confusion that consumers have?
Great.
And I'm going to talk about trust from a little bit different vantage point as the association, and that's trust with the data and information that's available to you for making those important business decisions. So one of the initiatives that we have at Insights Association is really around data quality. It's a great example of industry collaboration because we're partnering with many others in this space. And we're coming up with standards and approaches for ensuring that the data we need to make informed decisions is as accurate as can.
There we go. Thank you. So, that was the end of the rebroadcast. I'm really excited to have back 3 out of the 4 panelists so that we can really get to your questions and answers. And I see some questions are coming in right now already. I'm going to start while those of you are thinking about what questions to discuss. I'm going to restate a couple questions that came from the crowd at Works, because I thought the answers were really good from our panel. And there was the first question that stood out for me was came from a gentleman. He was talking about on the retail side. Okay, are we moving towards a green aisle or a green shelf in retail establishments, and how is that really going to impact point of shelf sort of behaviors and insight needs around that? Anybody want to? Ashley, do you want to start? Is that part of the any thoughts around that from a retailer perspective?
I think that is the ultimate goal. All the CPG brands and retailers want to be more climate friendly, and there are some retailers already that are doing a great job. Target being one. You can scan with your phone and find out which brands align with your values or are sustainable. So I think we do need the retailers to help with a lot of the things we were saying were big barriers today, like confusion and communication. They can help guide the consumer if that is something that they feel is important in their purchase decision. But it's going to take time for us to be there fully.
Mm-hmm. Mickey, you work across the spectrum of some retailers as association members for you. Anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that's the retailers as much as the CPG companies are understand this trend and want to see even more products in this area. Will it be a separate aisle or not? I mean, there are different schools of thought on that, right? When you look at alt meats, for example, should there be some retailers are choosing to have an alternative meat case. Others are putting, a frozen chicken, plant-based chicken nugget next to chicken nuggets because consumers want those different options. So I think consumers will end up driving that conversation about where within the retailers they are. But I agree with Ashley. I think retailers are really, really looking to demonstrate their own sustainability their own commitments to sustainability and meet the commitments to sustainability, whether those are social sustainability goals or environmental. They're putting goals out there that say X% of what we sell or everything we sell will meet these different standards. So they're looking for CPG companies that will help them meet those goals.
Okay.
And if I can just add a couple of things, I agree, not sure whether or not retailers will actually set up separate shelves for sustainable products, but I can certainly see as CPG companies begin to manufacture more sustainable products, that the shelf itself could be reset so that it's easier. There's a block of products that are positioned as sustainable on the shelf in a given category versus other products that cannot make that claim. And I could see that being a way that retailers meet the needs of those consumers looking for sustainable products, while at the same time organizing the shelf in such a way that really takes and helps communicate to consumers that they're taking sustainability very seriously.
And I also think if you look at the online sales, right? There are online organizations, Grove Collective coming up in Australia. There's a new one called Oz Green Oasis that take kind of the confusion or the hard work out of it for consumers. So they know if I go to Oz Green Oasis, everything I buy on there is going to be, it's going to meet the criteria that were set by that e-tailer. And so I think we'll continue to see more specialty, specifically online, that you can just go and order, and you don't have to do all the research. Like Ashley said, moms don't have time to do all of that work.
Okay. Well, I've got some other questions that we can bring out from the Quirks event, but I want to go next to some of the questions that are coming in. So first question is, what's the next consumer insights question you want answered related to a sustainable issue to move your work forward? So what's most pressing, perhaps?
Yeah, I touched on, one of our biggest challenges we're facing is how to communicate. And Mickey had added to that, it's all about trust and transparency. So our question is, before we can communicate, how do we build that trust? And how are we more transparent so that our message comes through more authentically to the consumer?
Great. Okay.
Yeah. With that, I mean, again, I would bring it, as Ashley said, back to transparency. And I think the insights that we need are things like how much does the consumer need to see? Or is just access to that information enough? So for example, if you put a QR code on that you can scan, there are some food organizations that are showing you all the way back. You can watch videos back to the farm. It gives you all kinds of information about the sustainability practices. What we're finding is people are buying those products because they have the QR code. They're not necessarily scanning the QR code. They're not taking the time to watch the videos. They just want to know that you're being transparent and that you're showing them, and that's enough for them. So I think it does come back to that. Like the question also becomes, how much information do consumers want on the topic and need on the topic to move from the I say I'm going to buy it to I'm actually going to buy it, because we talked about that say-do gap, right? Like, and all the barriers that come with that. So
great. Super. Well, let me go to the next question that's come in here, and that is, what product categories seem to have the most success focusing on sustainability messaging? And Ashley, I think you kind of addressed this, and I think Katie also mentioned it, but you were talking about some of your lines of products tend to, are positioned more right now for sustainability. But anyways,
Yeah, I think our organic naturally gets more credit. We notice brands in our aisle that say organic are more likely to be perceived as better for the environment or more sustainable. We have a brand in our aisle that has earth in its name, and so they get all the credit, whether they're doing anything or not. And they do a good job of actually just having very natural looking packaging, craft materials, browns, neutrals, instead of like colorful, heavily saturated packages like the rest of us. But actually, when you initially asked the question, my mind was going to what other categories, outside of food do a good job. And I think beauty, clean beauty is a growing trend. And Sephora and Ulta have done a very good job of helping consumers identify which brands are clean and better for you and better for the environment.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I know that beauty care, and we do a lot of work in beauty care, is also a big area, and we're seeing some big initiatives by some companies that are really trying to, again, same issues. Messaging is so important. Communication, trust are at the and as well as things such as pricing, of course. Anyone else have anything to add here?
Another category I think that's making some efforts actually is the beverage segment. And so you have some of the big beverage companies who are promoting at least using less plastic in their products and promoting recycling. But then there are some newer beverage companies that are launching aseptic and fully recyclable and packaging that's non-plastic. And so I think that's another category to watch. You have those who are reducing, but yet maintaining their current bottling practices. And then you have some newer entries that are really kind of pushing the envelope on being even more sustainable.
Right. I will add is that our aspirational compass project that we did last summer found that categories that had a big health halo towards it, okay, were also much more apt to have a lot more of this tension associated with people wanting to buy sustainable, but not finding the products on shelf that really address that, or pricing was also quite a big barrier, as I mentioned earlier. But anyways, halo types of products, such as an example, dairy, yogurt, has to be highly, very, very clean and transparent. And there's a lot of sustainability is also important there. Anyway, moving on. I'd like to move on to the third question we have that's come in today, is that the third-party certifications cost extra money during product development, obviously, yes. And so are you getting buy-in for these certifications to help highlight or validate sustainability? Great question.
This is a question I've been getting for the last few months at my organization. Because we want to know, should we be paying for these certifications? And do the consumers know what the certifications are? And does it drive purchase? And what I've found so far is that the larger ones that have been around for a while, like organic and non-GMO, have high awareness, but the rest don't. Today, we do have the carbon neutral footprint on our Plantastic line. In qualitative research, the consumers said that they were not aware of it, but they notice it. And maybe they will look it up, and it will help drive some of that awareness that we're hoping towards the sustainability initiatives we have. But today it is something that we are still wrestling with internally. How many certifications should we be putting on this package? Because it's quite cluttered already. Do they need to be there? And does it mean anything to the consumer?
Yeah, it's really important. I noticed that at the Natural Products Expo West, where we were attending and had exhibiting a month ago, that there is the number of certifications on PAC is dramatically grown. So you see at that show, it was typical to have 4, 5, sometimes 6 marks, different types of claims. One of the questions I have from an insights perspective is, at what point do you have too many marks where they kind of crowd everybody out so that the messaging gets really muddied? And I don't know, has anybody seen that, or is there a sense for more industry related investment to address that?
I just think that it's adding to the confusion because there's so many symbols now, there's so many logos. There isn't a central repository or a point. We talked about this when we were after the Quirks panel. Is that a piece of research that we need? Is how do we figure out which logos? You're right, the older ones seem to have, and the more basic ones seem to have a drive purchase intent, but really consumers across the board don't all understand the marks consistently. And there are so many of them within a category, right? Or even within a claim, that it just, again, adds to the confusion and erodes the trust overall. So then all of them mean nothing.
Great. All right. So next question is one more about global insights. So do you have any recommendations on how to approach sustainable messaging and gathering insights globally? Guidance varies so much that what can be said in the US may not be accessible in other markets. Anyone have any comments on that?
I mean, I'll just jump in quickly and say that a lot of that in food is driven by the regulatory environment in different markets, right? So we're seeing, for example, in the UK, England, when they left the EU, Brexit has actually been a boom for them in things like claims on and the use of GMOs and things that have been banned in the EU that now that England has the freedom to make the decisions, they're going different directions. Does that build trust or not? Depends on which part they're looking at, right? The regulatory environment in the EU is so incredibly strict that it really almost constricts business growth in certain areas. So I think that the sustainable messaging and claims, as long as the regulatory environments stay so different, the claims are going to have to stay so different. In food, that's a specific food comment. I don't know if anybody else has thoughts.
No, it's a great comment. Yeah, well, let's get to a wrap up here. So I'm going to let everybody, we can go through. I'm going to start with Ashley. Any final comments or thoughts you can add here in wrapping up? And then I'll go to Mickey and then finally Cindy.
I want to reiterate some of the things we had said in the panel, that we need to collaborate more as an industry. The certifications can only be meaningful if we're all using them and we have consistency and help drive awareness towards them. We really need to all work together to meet these goals, because it's a challenge. Kate even said this, the more people the more companies, I should say, that use the better for you ingredients, the cheaper they'll be. That'll be the same with the farming techniques, the packaging materials, etc. So by coming together and collaborating, we can make things more affordable and easier for the consumer to achieve that aspiration of being more sustainable.
Those are, Ashley, I think those are great points. I think what we look at is there are two sides to that. Is is sustainability something we should be looking at in a pre-competitive manner, like we do with food safety, right? So if there's a food recall, every food company everywhere collaborates on that because it's about food safety. The clock is ticking on the environment, right? So we can't afford every corporation, every association to go out and create our own individual learning curve of how to be more sustainable. What are the insights that we need to do to be more sustainable? How do we drive the volume so that the costs come down on some of these things? So on the other side, I've got members as well as collaborators who say, but that competition is what drives innovation and drives the cost down. So, but I think when it comes to sustainability, again, that transparency and sharing, as Ashley said, and collaborating in a pre-competitive manner and saying, what can we all do together, and then communicate that in the same way as the entire food system, so that consumers aren't listening to it from many different angles and then just giving up and assuming that, you know, food is all bad and we're all out to get everyone. Where from the food side, from the farmer all the way through, you know, I've never met anyone who's out to get the consumers. It's just the confusion and the mixed information they're getting.
I have another ad. We all need to get together and break and fix our broken recycling system.
Yeah.
Because a lot of materials we want to use are approved for the recycling stream, but they're not actually recyclable today in all of the local municipalities. So that's a big issue. We all need to come together and fix a lot of the issues
that's
in our
really,
system.
Really great point. I will add, because of Katie Marston's add to this panel, I saw yesterday an announcement that PepsiCo was introducing a center for compostability. And that compostability is looking at, I saw at the Natural Products Expo West, the emergence of more claims around home compostable rather than things that are industrial compostable. It's a great opportunity, again, to further address this issue. Instead of recycling, which is broken, certainly also there's opportunities perhaps there. Again, wrap-ups. So Mickey, did you finish anything? Okay, Cindy.
Yeah, so I think there are two things, building upon what both Ashley and Mickey have said, that the Insights Association can contribute to. One is providing the platform for these types of conversations, and also providing the platform for collaboration. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about this panel and the discussion is kind of thinking beyond the network that Insights Association usually focuses on, and working with organizations like Mickey's organization and thinking more holistically about some of the CPG and consumer product challenges. I think we have a real opportunity to provide a platform for all of those discussions across the wide range around sustainability, and perhaps even at some point, as the research methods evolve, develop standards that would really help highlight sustainable research practices.
Fantastic. Sort of in wrapping up sort of my comments, I will add to this is that, first of all, I want to thank all our panel members for your contribution, both at Quirk Chicago and answering the questions there, as well as the video that we've replayed here, and then answering some of the questions here for those in our audience today. This idea of collaboration that has been brought up, I think, is essential. I mean, it's this pre-competitive opportunity to be able to work together because we're all in this together. This whole idea, the demand for sustainable products is going to grow. I know there's some sense I've seen some people mentioning this year that it's not as important, or whatever. because consumers are more concerned about affordability right now because of inflation and all that. But that's a short-term thing. Long-term, it is going to be become more and more important as the cues from environment continue, and the cues that people hear signaling, these fears and concerns that consumers have about the future that are going to become more pressing, and that has got to have to drive this demand for more sustainable products. So I applaud the companies. I applaud that are doing this and trying to bring these products out. I applaud Mickey, your organization, which is focused on trust and addressing these types of issues. And Cindy, I applaud the Insights Association for being a leader in trying to bring the Insights community together. I think this is really important. And I again thank all of everybody here. I want to have, if I can get one more slide advancement here, please. Insights Now, we are trying to do our part as well. Besides these sort of broadcasting, these sort of panels and forums, we've also launched something called Sustainavation News. This is a service. It's a way in which we're pointing at a great number of sites that we have found where there's sustainable news that's coming out in various types of blogs, articles, various different content. And I noticed there's a lot of different types of sustainability topics. This has an AI component so that the more that you click on, the more it evolves to be more of your interest. The type is, and I've noticed it just myself, the things that I'm interested in, I'm getting served up new stuff every time. So it comes out once a week. You can click on this QR code and subscribe. It's free. It's just something that we are trying to make available so that people can be up on the latest of things that are coming out and what other companies are doing, what other associations are doing around the world. So with that, thank everybody for today for this topic. And again, applaud all of our panelists for a fantastic contribution. Thank you, everyone.